Mic check, mic check. It's your captain. I'm Coach Nita Watson. And as you see, probably like, why they don't have that orange stripe in the background? What they doing?
They're like,
We
what
on,
is this?
we on a new level. We on a new level. We trying new things.
Trying something new.
Some new things, honey. Shout out to my teammates here. We got Nisha, baby, and Caleb Rashad. That's how he normally says it.
Caleb Rashad.
Caleb Rashad, honey, put some respect on it. This
Yes,
this
baby.
evening, as we're doing this pilot run, we've been behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, talking about parenting. And with parenting, we're paying homage to BIPOC Mental Health Awareness Month. Caleb, since I had said it about 1,000 times, what does it mean?
BIPOC.
BIPOC means
Black,
BIPOC. Okay.
indigenous
Yep. People
Come on now.
people,
of
people of color.
Bam! Ladies and gentlemen, that's Caleb.
I did not know what that meant
And I gotta
until a
give
couple
it to
weeks
you
ago.
though, because at least you were honest. But at the same time, y'all are feeling buff in
And
this
you
shirt
just forgot
today.
right now.
Oh, and you got it right. We've been talking about parenting, different styles of parenting. We got this new age thing called gentle parenting. Shout out to the gentle
New age
parents
thing.
there. It is kind of new
It is,
considering
well, yeah.
it's not a new term, but it's like a new
It's,
outlook on parenting.
I feel like new age is appropriate.
New age is
Yeah,
fine.
I feel
Thank
like
you.
because people, I feel like people are actually like trying to explore. Like I feel like you said, it's been a term that's been circulating, but I feel like now people are actually putting gentle parenting to like work. And for some people, I feel like it does work, but I don't know. I don't
And
know.
tell us why though. Why is sometimes people shunning on gentle parenting?
Because it takes a lot of work and a lot of like repeating yourself. I feel like I mean I
Okay.
don't have kids,
Mm-hmm.
so I really don't have a say so in like what what works and what doesn't. But from what I've seen on social media, it's just like a lot of like repeating yourself and like it takes a lot of self control.
Yeah.
It takes a
I
lot of
feel
self
like
control.
I feel like it's one of those things that I don't want to say older generations have a tendency to kind of like just write it off as like, you know what I mean? Like, but I feel like there's this kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Condescending attitude towards the term gentle parenting. It's similar to when people who are religious talk about spirituality. Spirituality is something that's also considered like new age. So I feel like there's this kind of like, yeah, this condescending, like, oh, like, you know, kind of uppity attitude towards it, like it just like that it doesn't end, that it doesn't work, and it's
But I
like
also
very
think anything that's new is shunned. You
yeah.
Yeah.
know, remember
Yeah.
So
when we
people
had
reject change. I just feel like people
yes,
naturally reject change.
when we had like the 90s era of music. We were on our music thing a few weeks ago. A lot of our parents are probably like, why y'all in here doing all this gyrating and all of this bumping and grinding,
Gyrate.
right? But when you think about it,
Twerking.
they twerking, right? They had the similar thing. It just probably wasn't called that. They called
Right.
it something else. So I think
Mm-hmm.
every season things shift. Every time things advance and to try something new, we have a older set, a more traditional set of eyes and a visualized way of looking at things. I love the fact that Caleb, you are a very proud Southern man, right? And you
Yes,
were
baby.
raised, yes, honey, you were raised in Louisiana, as my grandmother would call it. And the way that you explained your relationship with mom and dad is phenomenal. But you always talk about how mom was a little bit more stern than your dad was. Tell us more.
Yeah. I like Nisha was saying, I grew up in a very religious household. So it very much gave spare the rod, spoil the child. They didn't believe in sparing that rod. So my mom was more of she was quicker to grab the belts. Um, my dad was more the one to like talk me down or like level with me. So yeah, I would say that yeah, I did get like whoopings when I was a kid, but I feel like I turned out all right, and you can really tell when someone didn't get, disciplined as a child. It didn't get their tail popped as a child. So I feel like there has to be like a healthy amount of that. I feel like in parenting, not to where you're just taking your anger out on your child. Like,
That's it. That's it. And then you can also tell too, to the both of you, where there's a lot of kids who've never had a conversation, never been spoken to. They've only been talked at. They've never been spoken
mm-hmm.
to.
And
Because
see,
it
I think my
feels
dad was really good at that. Like he was like,
that's a beautiful balance.
cause like I remember like moments of mom like yelling at me, and my dad is like, why are you yelling at him? Just talk to him. Like,
I
so
know she's
I
probably looking
got
at your
that
dad like, oh, soft
right.
ass.
So I got the both. I got
There
both
tends
of
to
that
be
type
like
of
that
parenting.
good cop, bad cop
True.
aspect in
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
parenting, especially in two-parent household. There tends to be like one nice parent and one, I don't want to say mean parent, but you know, quicker
Right.
quicker to discipline parent.
You can also tell too when there has been too much of discipline in certain settings because you'll have sometimes extreme volatile behaviors, you'll have aggressions, you'll have lack of communication skills because everything is a 10, nothing is a 4, nothing is a 5, everything at that moment is a crisis, everything is a 10. You can also tell too in people's behaviors where they've experienced a lot of childhood traumas, where they have been disciplined. But we always laugh at Caleb and we talk about the way that the school setting was and how we were raised. I wasn't raised in the South, right here in the city, but I was raised by a very traditional woman, right? My grandmother, she was very, Lord rest her soul, 'cause that's my baby. She didn't play that. She didn't play
Okay.
that. And Nisha, you said earlier, all your mama had to really do sometimes was,
Yeah, give
Give
a
give you
look.
that death stare.
or what was
Yeah.
y'all doing with the tight lips? There you go.
Wrinkle them lips up. You know
That
it's
top lip,
business, baby.
especially. But when you think about it, we don't really know how they were really parented and what they had to experience. So I think as we're talking about people of color for this month and parenting, every generation sometimes transitions because oftentimes your aunties and stuff probably be like, you so easy on them kids. And then you see like your cousins or your nieces and nephews now and you see the wild and out stuff that they do and you go, there's just no doggone way. Earlier, we were talking about our our past with teachers. And Nisha, you shared like your teachers were like the end all, right? Your teachers were up here hierarchy. Um, when you think about how young people and students are with teachers now, you go, so did nobody get they behind me? Because you could almost tell in the relationships that they're having with positions of power, people in power, people. Hey, Charlie Mack. Um, you can also
Well, I
tell
mean,
too.
kids nowadays just don't respect a lot of like just their elders. Just period. They just don't care. Like kids are now like fighting their teachers. Like these are elementary, high
You
school
got
kids fighting
teachers
their
fighting
teachers.
kids,
Teachers having to like defend themselves because
defend
like
themselves.
these
Yeah.
kids really be wilding out on you if you let them. Like so.
You also laugh too when we think about when we were talking about earlier how if your mama had to come up to that school in that house coat
Baby, it's
and
over. It's
it's a wrap.
over.
And now you got parents that just show up in house coat and bonnets. Like it's just the thing to do. All of that to me is just a different form of parenting. I personally, as a clinician, I don't really see anything wrong with gentle parenting. I think it's cool. I think it's dope. And I think
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
not for,
if it
but it ain't for
works, it
everybody though.
works. If it
But it
works,
ain't
it
for
works.
everybody.
Hey,
But it's not for everybody. Because you got some kids that will look at you like you got poop on your face. Like, what? Um, we were talking earlier about, remember, Nisha, we were talking about the social media impact and influence in parenting. Um, and how you got kids that have become viral sensations overnight. And if they, what did y'all call it? The breadwinner, if little Alame is
Yeah,
the
like
bread.
child stars, and then how do you parent a child star when they are the breadwinners? They bringing in the money, they're paying the bills. So it's like because it's like, okay, it's cool, like,
Mm-hmm.
4, 5, 6 year old child star, you can kind of control what
Mm-hmm.
they can do. But once
Mm-hmm.
that they start getting in them teens and they start thinking for themselves,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, what do you tell a child when they're
Mm-hmm.
paying for everything? Like, how you
Mm-hmm.
keep that under control.
Mm-hmm.
But I think about people like Kiki Palmer and her relationship with her mom. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that's a good example of, like, her mom is a good example of. However, I don't know what her parenting tactics were with Kiki, but like it worked because to this day they still like work together. I don't think her mom is like her
That's
momager,
beautiful.
but her mom is still like really hands on in a lot of things that she does. So it's like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
what did she do differently versus other child stars who haven't had that much of a success
Mm-hmm.
after
Mm-hmm.
the child, whatever mood they were as a child.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nisha, tell us about why you're looking into becoming a gentle parent. Tell us what your take is on gentle parenting.
Um, so gentle parenting, I feel like it's something that I will aspire to once I become a parent myself, just
Mm-hmm.
because of my own experiences with the more traditional methods of parenting, um, just my own personal upbringing and that sort of things, and the traumas that it left on me from what I experienced.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that a lot of what goes into disciplining, because there's disciplining a child and then there's just reacting to anger, like back to what
Yeah.
Caleb said.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like a lot of what ends up being traumatizing is just parents reacting to anger.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned before that I feel like a lot of like traditional disciplinary actions are rooted in slavery, just based on
Yes.
things that I've learned. And I know that is a very
Ooh, they not gonna like
controversial
that, honey. They not
statement.
gonna
I
like.
know that is a very controversial thought process, but
Mm-hmm. But
it is
it's
I feel like
very,
her opinion. It's her
that's
opinion.
and it's
facts
just based
though.
on, yeah, it's just based on things that I've learned. And like when you start tracing like certain things, a lot of things in our community can unfortunately be tied back to that time frame. Like we
Yeah,
could sit
Mm-hmm.
here all day and talk about colorism and
right.
redlining and all
Mm-hmm.
these things that are tied back to like slavery. But in my
Mm-hmm.
personal opinion, I feel like a lot of the origins of that are tied back to that. And like I said about the anger, I don't. It's easy to react out of anger, and it's like immediately satisfying, I guess, like instant
Mm-hmm.
gratification. Like somebody pisses you off, you take care of it
Right.
right then and
Ready to
there,
pop
type of
off.
situation.
Mm-hmm.
Right, it takes work to actually be the emotionally
That's what I was saying
intelligent one
earlier.
in
That
the
self
situation.
control.
That self-control, exactly. It takes
Mm-hmm.
work to do that. um it is harder to do that because it requires your own emotional regulation, but I do
Mm-hmm.
feel like you are the parent in that
Mm-hmm.
situation. You are the adult in that situation. um and it's just to me, it's just important to me to bring up a child in the most healthy fashion that I can, so that they are
Mm-hmm.
able to thrive as best as possible. Now I don't want to condemn, parents out there. I understand that, like you said, Nita, like parenting doesn't come with a rule book. So I'm not saying this
Mm-hmm.
to like, condemn people who
No.
have like beat their kids, but it's like one of those things when it's like, better, you do better. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what it means to
Mm-hmm.
me. It's like, I know better, so I'm going to strive to do better.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you feel like soft parenting, gentle parenting? Do you feel like that's gonna like make your kid? Because I feel like this is a fear a lot of people have. Like gentle parenting is gonna make your kid like soft, or like
I think it
or
comes
like
down
square. You know what I mean?
well, To me, I think it comes down to how you do it. Like,
Right.
if Johnny just set the house on fire, I don't expect for y'all to be like, well,
Now,
let's
Johnny, why did you
process.
do that?
Right,
Right,
right.
right,
Because it doesn't
right.
mean like placating or anything like that. Like
No, it
it's
Right.
doesn't. Mm-mm,
discipline is discipline.
Which is
You know,
what
you
I
don't.
think a lot of Black people think that's what soft parenting is, like that it's nothing but like,
but that also
oh,
says a lot about our culture sometimes and our fear of change, right? And our
Yeah.
apprehension of change because what goes on in this house stays in this house. My grandma would say, it's my fault and no
okay.
more, you know? She would
My mom
also
used to
tell me,
say, this is not a dialogue, this is a monologue. That was one of
oh,
her
oh,
lines.
oh,
Right.
oh, two
She
snaps for
kind of,
that, two snaps for
Now she kind of
that.
ate that.
she kind of ate you up
She
with that
ate
one
that.
now. I was
Yeah,
like,
that
oh,
was, ooh,
Yeah.
that one hit me. Ooh.
Yeah.
I
She'd be
also
like, shut
love the
up. This
fact
is not a dialogue, it's a monologue.
I also love the fact that we have had three different dynamics of how we were raised. Nisha, you were raised by a single mom, right? Caleb, you were raised by both parents, which culturally is very rare, right? So I commend your parents. I was raised, as I'm looking at her picture, an old-fashioned grandmother who took no mess. I have watched my grandmother knock a grown man out. I am not lying. I've seen her
period.
square up with somebody. That's probably where I get it from, right? I've seen her literally take no, you know what. And I've also seen her having to be so strong where she couldn't process her emotions. Does that make sense? Because
Yeah.
society places this much pressure of how you're supposed to parent so your kids won't grow up and be this way. But I always tell families in family therapy settings that kids are just mini adults and they're just still building their foundation as to what type of person they're going to be. A mother, a father, a grandmother, whatever your guardian is just a title. It's just a
So
role. Go
do you
ahead.
want kids?
I I will be blessed to be 42, right, in December. I still want to adopt. Maybe because I work with young people every day. A lot
Uh-huh.
of them I have really parented. I really have. A lot of them I've had from ages 10 all the way to like 22,
Yeah, so
right?
you
Um,
technically you already got kids.
I have abundance of kids, but did I ever want to carry? No, because I don't like pain and I'm scary. And then I was
No.
old fashioned gay, right? You know me, a queer woman.
She said old fashioned gay.
I used to think that that's gonna make me straight, and I'm not trying to do old fashioned,
Oh
right?
wow.
Oh my God.
I also didn't want to have, and this is me being straight vulnerable. I wanted to heal internally because I didn't want to have these repetitive patterns
And
of
kudos to you
thank
because
you.
I feel like a lot of people don't think about that. They just be out here having kids and it's like
Mm-mm,
if you
It's
know
yeah.
you got some things that you need to like deal with internally, you need to deal with that before you have a kid because you're not doing nothing but passing that down. Like
I
Mhm.
think now I'd be one kick ass
but
mama. You
also
hear
I think
me?
about it too, like I want kids too, but like I just think about the world and like how dangerous it is. And I'm like,
Mhm.
do I
Mhm.
really want to bring a kid up in this? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And every kid is different. Like it's different. I feel like it's different
That's true.
strokes for different folks. So
Hmm.
it's easy to just say there's like a one size fit all
Mm-mm,
way to
mm-mm,
upbring certain kids. But it's like,
mm-hmm.
okay, and I see this with sisters a lot. There's usually very like soft and fragile, soft spoken, sister, and then there's one like rowdy, like
I love
wild
it.
wild card of a sister. Like that's usually the dynamic I see a lot of times when
Or
it's
like a
like two
girly
sisters.
versus tomboy, like
Yeah, like there's always like that dynamic. Now with the the more docile one, that one, a gentle parenting tactic would probably work. But with some of the like rowdier sisters, like some of them you could be beating them and they don't even care. They'd be like, so it don't even
it's
hurt.
like that don't even hurt.
And but when you
Some
think
of-
about it, it may not hurt physically, right? But then they grow up and they have these very controversial relationships,
They do.
Right.
Now,
partnerships.
I'm not saying that it doesn't like traumatize them in their own way. What I am saying is that like when you have when it comes to children, like there's personality types to take into
Hmm.
consideration too.
That's very
Because
true.
some things that work, some tactics that may work on one child just may not work on
Because
the
my
other
grandmother, all she had to do was look at me, and my life would flash before my eyes, right? But I think my brother tried it a little bit more. Like, let me just test the waters a little bit.
child.
I knew my grandmother was not the woman to be toyed with, so I
Right.
learned
I think
early on.
I think I like because I also another type of parenting that I feel like should be like a category when it comes to parenting is like military brats. I feel like that's a different type of
That's a
parenting
whole nother
too.
day's topic.
Because now my friends in the military, now that they have kids now, so I'm like, oh, your child, you're raising a military brat, so you're gonna be different with your kid, like
Yeah.
than like regular civilian life. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I think about that, and I think I would use some of those like military tactics. Like if I have kids, I would use like using exercise as like discipline. Like what
Yeah.
do you call the when you go and do the wall stand? You got to squat on the wall.
Oh yeah, like a wall
Oh,
sit.
wall sit.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. Go do that for like, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 minutes or like do push-ups until
I
I
can
say
see
stop or
that.
something
Yeah.
like that. But
A lot of
again, I feel like it has to be a healthy amount of that because I feel like that could build a lot of resentment between you and your kid because you pushing them like too hard. I wouldn't push my kid too. If I know my kid is like not really capable of doing something, I'm not gonna like push my kid to do something like
Yeah.
that. But push-ups and like little stuff like that, I feel like it's a good way of like
And
discipline
then
and
you might
like
have that one kid that Nisha's talking about, like, I ain't seen you do no push-ups. And then you're gonna tell
right.
them,
But see, that's the
right.
thing
I
now
got
in the
that.
military is like they
I
can't
got that
force you to
mouth on them.
like in the military, like they can't force you to like do something with if they're not gonna like do it with you. Like so, like they say like drop and give me 30 or drop and give me whatever. They got to do it with you.
Hmm.
drop and give me four.
But I feel like that's like the new culture. Like that's very new in the military. Like back in the day, they didn't give a fuck. But
I agree that a lot of child upbringing tactics from the military can be probably useful, especially when it comes to
yeah,
discipline and that kind of thing. I
because
know a lot of
I
parents.
also can't see myself like hitting my kid or like picking up a belt. Like I can't see myself doing that.
I can't see myself like picking up a belt. I can see myself probably doing like a little tap or like a little pinch when
Mm-hmm,
when
mm-hmm.
you got me messed up somewhere. But
I
outside
might
Yeah.
of
flick you in the lip.
I think now it's so
that, my mom
funny
was
because a
definitely a
lot of
popper. Like a
right, a lot of my athletes tell me, Coach, ever since you turned 40, you turned soft. Because I used to be like, blah, 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 da, 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 da. Like my grandmother, I done knocked out two grown men in front of my shop for messing with my kids, right? I don't play that. But now I used to push my kids. They're running every day. They're doing all these things. Now I'm like, would you like a juice box? Oh, you're
Juice box.
tired? Let me give you a towel. And there's some of my older guys are like, Coach,
trying to be
really?
nurturing now.
Right, all of a sudden, right? They're like, Coach, you turned so soft. When I think about parenting styles, I want to bring up the four different styles. There's authoritarian, authoritative, and permissive. And I there's also neglect. So there's just different styles of parenting. But I think it depends on the personality traits that are within the individual of how you're going to parent, and then the environment. We
And
have
the child.
and the child,
You
right?
guys mentioned earlier how we feel about being trying to be your kid's friend or versus like not wanting to be one of their little friends and letting them know you're not one
I
of their
was
little
hoping you
friends.
said it just like that.
Um, for me personally, I would definitely want to have some type of like open door policy with kids
Yes.
as far as like,
Yeah.
because I would rather them like feel safe enough to communicate with me and talk to me than
Rather
trying to
than try to hide.
hide or like get caught up in some stuff because they're trying to like be
Mm-hmm.
out here doing stuff on their own. I don't want my child to view me as their friend. I do want, of course, I want to like be viewed somewhat as an authoritarian and a
Mm-hmm.
disciplinarian, but I definitely want them to feel free to be able to communicate with me. And I feel like that comes like with my emotional regulation. But I also know too, my children will never like 100% know the full depths of like how psychotic I actually am. I'm
We
just,
won't tell nobody. So
cause you know how like,
give us your parental takeaway then.
well, I was just gonna say, cause you know how oftentimes when your parents, they feel, it seems like they know stuff, like
Mm-hmm.
even with stuff like you're like, oh my god, how did they know that, like
My
all the time.
mom, oh my God, I can't get
And
away
it
with
felt like they
nothing.
had
Like,
like mother's intuition or parents intuition or
she be
whatever.
knowing.
Yeah, exactly. So I definitely want to like maintain that. I would want to maintain that, but I also, like I said, would just want I would want to be approachable to my
Got it.
child.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say my parenting takeaway is just like, whatever you do in all things, just make yourself approachable, because at the end of the day, I feel like that's like what's most important, is that your child feels safe enough to come to you and know that they can go to you to support at the end of the day.
I can see that. Caleb, give us your
Yeah.
parental takeaway. That's good, Niche.
Referring back to being your child's friend, I would say I heard somebody say this. She was telling her kid, "I'm not your little friend. I'm your big friend. Like I'm not like your other little friend. Like I'm your big friend because I'm taking care of you. Like
I be
you need
looking
to
out for
have
you.
right. You need to have
I'm your
some
big friend
respect."
and you my broke friend. You my little broke friend.
Okay, my little broke friend.
Don't come for Charlie. He ain't even asked to be a part of this.
My takeaway would be to be open minded to new parenting tactics. And have some self awareness about where, if you're the parent who's quick to, pick up that rod and not spare the child, make sure you know where that anger is coming from. We don't want displaced anger. So,
Oh,
yeah.
look at y'all sound like little therapists. I would say my takeaway would be coming to the realization that parenting is a gift, and everyone can't open that present because everyone is not blessed to be a parent. And realizing that your projections can make or break that individual moving forward. So
Mm-hmm.
having that discernment, having that awareness, having that insightful mentality. I would also take away and say, don't be afraid to try new things. Don't be afraid to communicate. As much as my grandmother did, as she called hooping and hollering, we talked. Me and my grandmother, that was my ride or die. We talked about everything. She was probably one of the first ones that told me that my prayer partner was really my girlfriend. Talking about, now Minnie, now I know. And this means, I'm not gay. Dun, 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 dun.
You was
Look at me
calling her
now.
your prayer partner?
Prayer partner, honey.
Oh wow.
Right, right. Don't try to steal
Is
that.
that what the kids
That's
are
my
calling it nowadays?
that's my
Right.
PP. That's
No,
my
no,
PP.
that's what the
I
church
was about to
boys
say,
are calling it.
I'm not, listen, I'm not
That's
in
what
these
the church boys are calling
LGBTQ
it.
streets like that. So
That's what
I
y'all doing
don't,
at them.
I
What
don't
y'all
know
doing
nothing
at them
about
prayer
that.
meetings? What's going on at them prayer meetings?
My other
yeah,
takeaway would be parents, don't be afraid to apologize. If there's
that's a good
moments
one.
where you have gone a little too far, whether it's in your actions or in your words or just in your absence, just don't be afraid to apologize and start over. Because
Because I
parenting
feel
is a
like
blessing.
that's understandable too. Because kids can get you there. Kids
People
can
tell me
get
all the
you.
time, how do
Be your
you
own
work
kid.
with, people tell me, how do you work with inner city kids every day? I think it's just a grace that I have because the way that I was raised, right?
Hmm.
But I can speak the language because I was once them, but I didn't have as many stressors or distractions or environment things that are going on now. I appreciated this segment because it took a lot of vulnerability for us to share. So I appreciate that. I am your captain, Coach Nita. These are my co-pilots, Kay